In the shadowed halls of power, where whispers echo louder than shouts, the man who explains himself is already losing. To explain is to justify, and to justify is to reveal doubt. In the eyes of Machiavelli, doubt is the seed of weakness, the scent that draws predators, the crack that invites collapse. Niccolò Machiavelli, the ruthless mind behind The Prince, did not live in a time of comfort and pleasantries. He lived in a world of daggers and deception, of smiles that meant betrayal and gifts that carried poison. He understood a truth that most men fear to confront. Those who hold power do not explain themselves. They assert, they command, they act. Explaining yourself is the admission that you care about being understood. And in a world governed by power, not fairness, that is dangerous. Because when you open your mouth to explain, you hand your opponent the blueprint of your mind. Your fears, your hopes, your logic, all lay bare like the underbelly of an animal. It may feel noble, even righteous, to explain. But Machiavelli would laugh at such naivety. He would remind you that the lion never justifies why he hunts. The fox never asks to be excused for its cunning. Why, then, should a man bent on dominance ever explain himself? The very act of explaining presupposes an audience worthy of your reasoning. But Machiavelli knew that most people are not worthy. They are not rational actors in a fair debate. They are manipulators, observers, and vultures. The more you explain, the more you lose authority. You move from the role of the actor to the defendant, from dominance to apology, from mystery to predictability. Consider the prince and his court, questioned by those beneath him. The insecure prince, afraid of rebellion or dissent, will explain his every move. He will try to convince, to plead, to justify his decisions as if truth and reason could win hearts. But what he truly wins is contempt. The court sees his fear. They smell it, and they know that their prince can be moved, not by force, but by mere words. He is no longer untouchable. He is no longer feared. He is one of them, clawing to be understood. But the wise prince, the Machiavellian ruler, does not explain. He acts, and when questioned, he responds with silence or with strength, not with rationality, but with authority. He knows that power is not maintained through clarity, but through mystery. The moment your enemies understand you, they begin to calculate. And calculation leads to strategy. And strategy leads to your undoing. Machiavelli understood that in politics, perception is more powerful than truth, and perception is never kind to those who explain. Because every explanation is a wound, an opening to which judgment pours in. When you explain, you admit that your action was questionable, that you anticipated doubt, that you need others to see your intention as good or reasonable. But Machiavelli would say, who cares if your intention was good? What matters is whether your result brought you power or defeat. If you win, no one will care how or why. If you lose, your explanations are just noise. Look at history. The great conquerors did not explain. Alexander did not justify his ambition. Caesar did not explain why he crossed the Rubicon. Napoleon did not hold press conferences. They acted and the world adjusted. But the weak, the forgotten rulers, they wrote speeches. They begged for understanding. They made appeals to morality and reason, and history discarded them. Why do we explain ourselves? At the root, it is fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being hated. Fear of conflict. But a Machiavellian man does not fear these things. He embraces them. He understands that being misunderstood is power, because it keeps others guessing. It keeps them unbalanced. They don't know if you're kind or cruel, generous or ruthless, predictable or wild. That uncertainty is your shield. That unpredictability is your sword. Even in personal relationships, the one who explains loses power. Think of the man who explains to his lover why he did not call, why he worked late, why he forgot something. Each explanation, no matter how true, makes him smaller. It says, I need your approval. I fear your rejection. I seek your validation. But the Machiavellian man does not seek validation. He is the validation. He sets a frame. He decides a narrative. If someone does not understand him, that is their problem, not his. To explain is to appeal, and appeals are made to those above you. Think of that deeply. If you explain, you are appealing. Appealing to what? To reason? To empathy? To authority? It doesn't matter. The act places you beneath. Machiavelli would never place himself beneath. Even in ruin, he would hold posture. Even in defeat, he would never explain, because silence has more power than speech. In silence, others project their fears, their doubts, their admiration. In speech, especially explanatory speech, you shatter the illusion. You clarify. You define. And to be defined is to be contained. Machiavelli knew that mystery is more dangerous than clarity. The unknown is always feared more than the known. Be the enigma, not the explanation. Some will argue that explanation is necessary for trust. That transparency builds relationships. But those people do not understand power. Trust is not built on explanation. It is built on consistency, results, and control. A leader who produces results does not need to explain. A man who keeps his word does not need to justify. It is only the inconsistent, the unsure, the weak who must constantly explain themselves. And in doing so, they only reinforce the image of instability. Machiavelli would say, "Let your enemies be confused. Let your allies wonder. Let the masses speculate. But do not explain. Explanation is for priests and teachers, not for rulers, not for strategists, not for those who understand that the world is not fair, and that power belongs not to the most righteous, but to the most resolute." Even in modern times, the principle holds. The CEO who over-explains market losses looks weak. The politician who justifies every decision appears unsure. The man who constantly tells others why he is a good man only reveals his desperation. In contrast, the one who acts decisively, who lets results speak, who embraces misunderstanding without fear, that man commands respect. Do not fear being misunderstood. Fear being predictable. Fear being easy to read. Fear being so transparent that others can anticipate your next move. Explanation is a trap. It feels good because it feels honest. But honesty is not the highest virtue in the Machiavellian world. Effectiveness is. And sometimes, to be effective, you must let others wonder. Remember, the lion does not explain why he kills. The storm does not explain why it destroys. The king does not explain why he rules. They act, and the world reacts. That is power. That is strategy. That is Machiavelli. So, the next time you're tempted to explain yourself, pause. Say nothing. Let silence be your answer. Let confidence be your shield. Let ambiguity be your armor. And walk forward, not as a man who begs to be understood, but as one who demands to be respected. Because in the end, the man who explains is the man who kneels. And Machiavelli never knelt.